Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was in fact our 100th versus the community, and we were going to race open A-class cars. The first race going to the Nurburgring GP circuit. There was a little bit of bumping down into, actually before they got into turn 1, somebody tried to move over in front of a car, didn't quite judge it right, and there was a bit of a shunt on the start-finish straight. Everybody else managed to make it through relatively well. My Dodge was trying to fight past an F2000 car, which are difficult things to race with because, of course, while they have absolutely none of the straight line speed, they have incredible cornering grip, whereas my car is completely and utterly the opposite way around. Have a go at the inside as a BMW gets himself very, very sideways. The F2000 gets itself sort of boxed in between, well, just about everybody, through the corners, eventually making it around the outside of the BMW, while I would manage to scamper down the road, and then there would be sort of a little bit of lag going on. Unfortunately, this race was perhaps not quite the most exciting. Aside from a few cars damaged during a bit of a laggy shunt and so on, the field would very quickly get spread out. At the start of the race, well, you kind of can't really afford to make any mistakes when the field is still relatively bunched up, as this NSX finds out, just outbrakes itself, running a little bit too wide, and then trying to get on the power, puts the weird on the sand. There you go, two cars have gone shooting past, and yeah, the vehicles are lining up ready to get past it again. This is how much of the race looked. There was cars sort of just about within sight of each other and not a huge amount happening. Sometimes we get this with races, sometimes you have incredibly close races, other times you get races that just sort of spread out, whether it be through incidents or sort of how people have built cars and so on. It can vary. This time there were a few bumped, a few damaged cars, and just the way the race ended up was people quite a way apart from each other. They did look like there was going to be a bit of a battle. I think this was over 5th or 6th place. The NSX fighting with the Subaru Impreza. NSX ran a little bit deep into the hairpin trying to get past the 22B, was under a little bit of pressure, and certainly the Subaru was quicker up through the uphill chicane. The Supra, though, was quicker than the pair of them. The 22B getting a little bit caught up with the NSX, so the Supra steams around the outside of him as they come into the next corner. Again, the NSX is a little bit too wide. The Supra is there sort of sticking his nose up the inside, and then all manner of lag cannon would happen. The one sort of slightly close, interesting race that was going on during this one, and they all get lag killed at the same corner. He could have lagged at any time anywhere else, but no, he had to wait until there were people close together. At the front, I got myself into second within the first lap or so, and had spent the entire race trying slowly to catch the leader, who had scampered away at the very start. And by the time we got onto the final lap, he was there within sight. I was using the straight line speed, the acceleration you get from the dart, to try and maximise any sort of straight we had, but of course come through the corners, and the Lamborghini was the better handling car. I didn't really have a huge amount of options left to me at this point of how on earth I was going to get past the Lamborghini. The important thing was to be neat, be smooth through this upcoming chicane, and then the final corner, or the run out of the final corner, was the most likely place that I could do anything. The Lamborghini was a little bit scrappy, ran a little bit wide through the first part, put him on a slightly tighter line through the second part, but he was still a little bit too far ahead. Fortunately for me, he would run a bit deep into the final turn and then just understeer off the track, dipped a wheel on the grass, and that's all it took. The Dodge would pounce with its much better acceleration, and with the Lamborghini having a poor run onto the straight, I could claim victory. A very close finish. Final few laps of that one were incredibly tense as I was gradually, slowly catching the Lamborghini in the front. But final lap was an interesting one at Nurburgring. Our second race would go to the Sebring full circuit, a track that the muscle cars were quite likely to like. Unfortunately, a little bit of a tap on the back end of a Chevelle would cause all sorts of chaos through turn 1, as I think 3 or 4 vehicles were spun in all of that nonsense. These guys at the front, the top 3, were the only cars to get away. Various vehicles got away without damage. It was more about sort of avoiding the chaos and not sort of losing too much time by having to take rather rather avoiding action. And as we come down this this straight, there are plenty of straights for the muscle cars to stretch their legs. It was this hairpin that was going to be a pain. I think almost every car at some point went off at that one. I collected a Celine on this first lap. Every vehicle at some point during the race ran wide at that hairpin. Yeah, with very quick cars and not quite knowing where to brake on the opening lap, yeah, there were a few accidents and later laps as well as people went for overtakes and so on. The Chevelle was to recover pretty well after its very sideways moments in turn 1 and had fantastic acceleration, just simply out-dragging the Aston Martin long before they even get to a corner. That's not a long straight either. That's not a long straight at all. But the straight-line speed of some of these muscle cars, you could get, I think some of these were running the NASCAR engines with 900 horsepower. You can get them with that much power in A-Class. And while, yes, they will be an utter handful through the corners, you can make it up when you get to the straights. The Mustang would have there's quite a few offs here and there throughout the field. The Chevelle would get in a tangle with the Dodge Charger at some point, so the Chevelle had a little bit of damage on it, and you can see the difference it makes with straight line speed. Just that little bit of damage, a little bit of aero damage and so on. On the Chevrolet, the Mustang can simply breeze past the second it gets to a straight. And then, of course, we come to a corner, and they're both fairly equal in terms of handling. One vehicle that was making his way slowly through the field was a Lamborghini Aventador. I think he got caught up a little bit in the first lap. To be fair, most cars got caught up in the first lap silliness, and even with a big slide out of the final corner, the Lamborghini would have enough straight line speed to pull up alongside and overtake into turn 1 a BMW M1, keeping the car to the inside. BMW didn't really fancy go around the outside in the end there, and the Lamborghini could get the pass, and he's far enough ahead not to have to worry into the next few corners. Positions would change as cars fell off the track, and this was certainly the closest group at this stage as the Dodge gets very, very sideways. The Buick had found itself up into third, but was suffering with quite a bit of damage. The Buick had little brakes and dodgy suspension. The Aston Martin was just struggling with acceleration and sort of general straight line speed, while the Charger was incredibly quick at a straight line, but generally terrible through the turns. The Aston Martin left a bit of a gap on the inside, and the Dodge, well, didn't really need much of an invitation to pounce on that. With the acceleration it got out of the turn, it again could just simply breeze past the car. Admittedly, a little bit of a bump on the outside there, but yeah, the straight line speed of the muscle cars was quite impressive. The Aventador continued to pick up a few places, this time lining up a Nissan Skyline, almost identical slide out of that final turn. The Lamborghini not quite liking the bumps on that last corner. Not quite such an overspeed this time round, but still enough to get it alongside, and the Lamborghini driver a little braver on the brakes and could get the Aventador up the inside and past the Nissan Skyline. This little battle for third would carry on. They would gradually drop the Aston Martin. It just didn't have the straight line speed to compete with these two vehicles. The Dodge got to the inside but couldn't quite slow it down enough. That allowed the Buick to get the cutback, and if you do that, you'll be on the inside for the next corner. It's a long way around the outside of that turn, and the Dodge can't quite keep his car around the outside, but the Charger has got the straight line speed. The Buick, with that bit of damage and not quite as much power as the Dodge, is nowhere near as fast when it comes to the straight. The Dodge gets very, very close behind it, but of course the Buick can go defensive as we head in towards the hairpin. Both cars wiggling around a little bit on the brakes. Somehow the Charger makes it all the way around the outside, and with that more power, that better acceleration, the Dodge can get the move done. Definitely overtake of the evening right there. That's not an easy thing to do with good handling cars, let alone when you've got broken muscle cars with a lot of power. That's quite an impressive overtake to make it all the way around the outside of the hairpin. At the front, and it was the Mustang that would go on to take victory. Probably one of the only cars to have completed this race without having suffered some sort of damage at Sebring, with a very big celebratory slide. But it should be a muscle car 1-2-3, perhaps unsurprisingly, with the Mustang taking victory. The Chevelle would come in second ahead of the Dodge Charger. Yeah, very much a power track around Sebring. Our third and final race would go to the Silverstone GP circuit. Turn 1 and 2 could often be a little bit scary as we follow this rough. It's 3 wide. The Celine got himself a little bit caught up on the curb through there. Not a good idea. The curbs here are utterly vicious. There were a couple of cars out wide, and there was a little bit of sort of concertina effects, sort of lagging bumping going on through the third turn that would damage Ferrari and an Impreza. Everybody else, though, made it through the turns okay, despite trying to fit 3 wide through that turn. That's not a turn you want to be trying to fit 3 cars wide through. It's, it narrows up pretty quickly through there. The rough that we're following gets a much better run onto the straight, managing to get up the inside of the Impreza. Impreza thinks about trying to keep it around the outside, and you can sometimes get away with that if you have enough grip, but the rough is just too good handling. Impreza still sort of having a sniff, having a look, trying to get up the inside, and there was a plenty big pack of cars. A Buick will get itself in trouble across the curbs, spinning it in towards the wall. Got away without any major damage, though. The Corvette would spot a gap. I don't think he quite intended to get an overtake done there, but when the Lamborghini couldn't quite carry the speed through the turn and understeered off wide, the Corvette would pounce and get the position. He was then after the NSX that was a little bit out of shape, and often if you end up being out of shape through one part of Maggotts and Beckett's, you're out of shape for the whole thing, and you're very slow through the section of corners, and sure enough, the Corvette can simply out-accelerate the NSX down this back straight and get the position. It was very crowded further back. We were all still squabbling for positions as half the field understeers off at the final corner. I was trying to sneak up the inside of a Mercury Cougar. Couldn't quite make it far enough alongside. A little bit of rubbing as I get my vehicle on 2 wheels, still side by side, but I just don't have the grip. My Dodge much more of a straight line speed and acceleration car. Porsche spies a gap and dives up the inside. Ferrari sweeps across the track, not quite judged where the Celine was, and spins himself around in a circle. The Porsche can't quite keep it though, ends up just understeering off the track, and of course the second you get sort of just one wheel on the grass is going to drag the whole car off and you're going to lose all of the speed. I get a scary 2-wheeled moment that wasn't a huge amount of fun. The poor Corvette at the front would have an incident with a Ferrari and spin off the track. Things were to go quite badly wrong for me here as well. Around the next corner, the Mercury and the Lancia get together. I just can't avoid. I try to slam on the brakes to avoid. My car's broken with terrible steering as the whole pack now swarms around me. I just got caught out with nowhere to go. I couldn't actually steer my car to the inside because I had knackered steering, and then cars sort of swamped all the way around me. The poor NSX would also get a bit shunted around in that one. Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. Not much I could have done about that. Yeah, brakes not quite good enough to avoid that. At the front, and after the Corvette spin, it would be the Buick that was taking on a Lamborghini Countach. Interesting race. Not the 2 cars you normally see racing against each other, but there we go. The Lamborghini being the quicker car through the turns, the Buick being faster on straight line speed and faster on acceleration. At Silverstone, there are plenty of overtaking opportunities around here. Fortunately for the Buick, it doesn't really need to do a huge amount. The Lamborghini just gets it a little bit out wide, tries to get the power down and gets a big twitch, and that's enough again just to see one wheel on the grass and slows his run onto the straight, and the Buick, with already plenty of straight line speed, can breeze past him, and by the time they get to the corner down here, the Buick is far enough ahead. I thought we'd seen the worst of the lag cannons with that 3-car fire at Nurburgring. I was wrong. There was a Ferrari having all manner of issues, would kill the Lancia, fire it backwards across the track, right into the path of 3 more cars. Very nearly collected a Diablo as well, that Diablo just saw them in time. That was very unfortunate, and that put pay to any sort of seriously close groups in the middle of the field. Yeah, quite unfortunate, that one. But again, the pack of cars could do nothing about the Lancia that was suddenly going the wrong direction at very high speed. You can't quite expect that. The 2 vehicles that had the sort of weird concertina bumpy laggy thing going on in lap 1 would both have to go to the pits to fix their vehicles up, but they would carry on having quite a close battle. The Ferrari trying to find its way past the Subaru Impreza as they come up towards the first of the long straights. The Impreza got a little sort of bounce across the curb, I think, slowed its run down slightly onto this back straight, and the Ferrari just has that straight line speed. Again, the Subaru, just a little slide, just losing a bit of momentum, but yeah, it can't really do too much about the Ferrari that can simply sweep past it in a straight line. Subaru thinks about trying to go too wide, but doesn't quite have the brakes or the grip to really hold it with the Ferrari, and the Ferrari can move up into what I think was about 10th position at this point in the race. As we came to the closing stages, 4th place was under threat. The Corvette was holding on to 4th, but was being challenged by a Celine. The Celine very, very quick in a straight line, while the Corvette was a little bit better through the turns. Celine trying to find somewhere that it can get a pass done. Corvette was sliding around a little bit, could well have had a bit of rear aero damage or rear damage from its spin across the track. Celine gets it on 2 wheels and runs a little bit wide, but there is such a huge amount of speed in this F7. Again, perhaps helped by some slight damage on the Corvette. You can get it past, but then can't get it stopped into the next corner and can't quite carry the speed through the turn. The Corvette is back past again, and the Celine tries to put the power down, gets a big slide, and that's not really what you want to be having. That lost him a fair amount of time. You can see the gap the Corvette has made up just from that one small slide that the Celine had. Yeah, you don't want to be sliding cars when racing that closely together. But at the front, it was the Buick that was to go on to take victory with a slide out of the second to last corner there. Yeah, having made his way past the Countach, the Buick can sort of drive away from the field a little bit. Again, slight shame with this race. There was quite a few bumpings in this versus the community. Lag was a bit of a pain as well, which is always a little bit of a shame. But I was quite pleased with my dart. It was certainly quick when it wasn't broken, and yeah, I had a good run at Nurburgring. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest for close action, this one, which is a little bit of a shame. But oh well, there's not a huge amount that I can do. Anyway, that is it for this versus the community. The next one shall be on Thursday, the 14th of May. We're going to be on Forza Horizon 2. Racing on Storm Island using the stock stadium trucks. I can't remember quite how they're worded on their super stadium trucks or whatever the things are. The Robbie Gordon trucks. As yeah, they're great fun vehicles, and I haven't raced them sort of in a big group with them. So yeah, we're gonna race some of them. If you want to sign up and take part, then you can go to our forums. There'll be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and a sign up thread will be in there. But that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.